You and I both know that it is incredibly frustrating when you want so badly to feel in control and to trust yourself around food, when you want so badly to stop overeating, binge and emotional eating. But no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you know, right? Like you feel like you know so much, you know what you should be doing. And yet the pattern still keeps repeating, and you don't know why you keep overeating over and over and over again. This episode is here to answer that question because I know how frustrating that might be. And I want to take you through a process to help you diagnose your overeating with 4 different ways. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in.
Hello, my friend. And I'm so happy that you are here, that you press play on this episode, because if you are struggling with overeating, binge, or emotional eating, this episode has the power to blow your mind. Think of it as a diagnostic episode, and it's really going to help you diagnose why you keep falling into this same pattern with food and what you can do about it. So I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about, and it's always coming from a place of what's going to be valuable for my listeners. What do they need to hear? What are they struggling with? And I actually had a coaching call with my Food Freedom Academy 2.0 clients. I think it was 2 weeks ago, which, by the way, oh man, this has been such a fun program to create and to run. If you're in it, you know what I mean. But oh my goodness, I just finished creating module 4, which is all about how to rewire your mind, how to take control of your thoughts, how to silence that food police in your mind that is constantly making you feel guilty and ashamed, telling you what you should or shouldn't eat, and how to replace those anxious, negative thoughts with positive, empowering thoughts that are going to help you create the happy and healthy life that you deserve. I'm so excited for all of you students inside of the program to get access to Module 4. And if you are not inside the program, but you want to know more about it, then go ahead into the show notes and you will find more info. But all of that, to wrap this up, I was on a coaching call with my clients about 2 weeks ago. And I actually went into a deep dive on how to diagnose overeating. Because we've all had that experience where we wake up in the morning and we say, today is going to be different. Today is going to be the day that I don't overeat. I'm going to have more willpower. I'm going to have more discipline. I will do better. And I used to say that to myself all the frickin' time. And I will say that I still say that to myself, not with food anymore, but actually with my nail picking habit. I can't believe that I'm admitting this on the podcast, but I have a nervous tick where I pick at my nails when I'm anxious, when I'm stressed, even when I'm just bored. And so it gets so bad that sometimes I make myself bleed, and I have tried everything. I've done nail polish. I've done fake nails. I mean, I've done it all. My Luke recommends that I put gloves on. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to work with gloves on. That's crazy. But I do want to say that because I understand. I've told myself that so many times. Today is going to be different. Today is going to be different. And then it just ends up pulling me right back into the same habits. And it's so incredibly frustrating. Because especially if you're struggling with food, it's not as innocent as just a nail picking habit. It might be affecting your physical health. It might be affecting your mental health. if you're anything like I used to be, it might be on your mind 24/7. And so to be at a constant war with food is exhausting. It's all consuming, and you probably just want it to end. So it always starts with awareness. One of the biggest reasons why people get stuck in this pattern and repeat the same habit of overeating. And for, simplicity of this episode, we're going to be using overeating, binge eating, and emotional eating all wrapped up together because it will be a very similar root cause. But most people, the reason they get stuck in this is that they actually have no idea the real root cause as to why they keep overeating. They think that it's just a self-control problem or a willpower problem. And that's not the case. That's very, very surface level. There is something driving your behaviors with food that's usually unseen. That's usually going on underneath the surface. So until you learn how to diagnose that, the diagnosing is the very first step, because then once you understand why this keeps happening, you can move on to pairing it with the right strategies for you that are going to address your root causes to put a stop to the habit for good. So let's talk about the 4 reasons why you keep overeating, even though you want so badly to stop. So that's really what I was going through with my clients on this coaching call, and I want to do that for you too. So I do recommend that you take out a pen and a piece of paper and you take some notes, or you take some notes on your notes app, because yes, listening to a podcast is wonderful and it's really important, but I want you to remember this. I want you to be able to apply this to your life. So let's start with the very first reason. This is always where I start. If I'm working with a client, if I'm talking to a friend who's struggling with this, I will always start here. And this is also why it's the first pillar of my fuel method. And that is a physiological reason. So what I mean by that is in relationship with your body and its needs. So let's say someone's telling me, Sabrina, every night I overeat, or every time I go to sit down, I am eating really quickly. It feels like I can't stop. The first thing that I'll always get curious about is your body getting enough food? And is it getting the right kind of fuel? So let me pause and just say that this isn't about, is it getting quote unquote good food? What I mean by this is if I find out that someone is skipping breakfast or is, backloading all of their food, so you might not eat until noon, or you eat very, very little in the morning, or you drink black coffee when you're hungry instead of fueling yourself. Maybe I find out that your meals are lacking certain macronutrients. Maybe you're having no protein in your breakfast, or you're having no carbs. You're having no carbs at lunch. Maybe you're having a salad that doesn't have any kind of complex carbs like croutons or quinoa or bread on the side, whatever that might be. Then there's a really, really good chance that your body is going to have to compensate for that later on in the day. So imagine that you hold your breath underwater. You can do it for a little bit and then a little bit, but eventually you're going to have to come up for air because your body is missing a crucial need for oxygen. So when you do come up for air, the longer you've been holding your breath underwater, the more you're going to be gasping for air when you come up, right? Like no matter how much willpower or self-control you try to have in that moment, you will be gasping for air in a very chaotic and uncontrollable way because you're trying to make up for the lack of oxygen that you just had. And that was a really big problem that I used to have, is I was so afraid of eating. of eating a lot of calories, especially because calories were like this really big fear for me. I had rules around I can only eat 400 calories per sitting. So I can only eat 400 calories at my breakfast and at my lunch, which is mind blowing to me now because I probably eat more than double that in each setting. But I would not eat enough during the day. And then I would be at work. I used to work a desk job at the time. And I would be at work and 2 or 3 o'clock would roll around and all I could think about was food. And then when I would get home at 5 p.m., the second I got into the kitchen, I started eating everything in sight, not because I was lacking willpower, but because my body was missing crucial nourishment. So if you find yourself struggling with overeating, asking yourself some questions around the physiological reason for it. Am I eating enough during the day? Am I maybe waiting too long between the times that I eat? Am I waiting 4, 5, 6 hours between eating? If that's the case, then yeah, you will most definitely eat when it's time to eat. Am I eating enough of all foods? Meaning, am I getting enough carbs, protein, and fat during the day? Because those are all things that if your body is not getting enough, if you're not getting enough carbs during the day, then you'll likely notice that by the end of the day, your cravings, they're not for carrots. They're not for a chicken breast. They're usually for carbs. And that is because your body is incredibly smart. Your body is going to send you signals to tell you, hey, I'm not getting enough of this. So that's where we always want to start, is on a physiological front. Are you truly working with your body and treating it as a machine that needs nourishment, that needs adequate nourishment, that needs balance? And then if you uncover that, oh no, I don't think that my body is getting what it needs, then you've uncovered one of the possible reasons why you're overeating. And then now that you have an idea of what's going on, you can go to work to pair it with the right strategies to solve that. So that's really what the first pillar of the fuel method, which is fundamental body connection, is. It's teaching you how to work with your body, how to make sure that your body is getting everything that it needs so that we don't have those obsessive thoughts about food, so that we're not undernourishing, so that we're not struggling with binge eating at the end of the day because our body hasn't gotten enough earlier on. So that is reason numero uno. I hope no one here is Spanish and heard that horrible Spanish. If you do, please don't send me a DM hating, okay? All right, so let's move on to the second thing. So now let's say I'm talking to someone, I'm talking to one of my clients, and they are listening to their bodies. They are eating enough. They're eating breakfast. They're eating balanced meals. They're not waiting too long between meals to eat. Wonderful. Let's move on to the second reason. And that reason is emotional. So, are you using food to fill an emotional void? Are you using food to soothe yourself, to regulate yourself when you are feeling discomfort from difficult feelings? If that's the case, then you will most likely overeat because in that moment, you're not needing fuel. You're not needing food. You are needing something that will address the reason why you turn to food in the first place. So if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling bored, and you turn to food to numb yourself, to distract yourself, to cope even temporarily, then that need doesn't get satisfied. So we eat, we hope that we're going to feel better, and then maybe we throw ourselves into a food coma until inevitably those feelings come rushing right back up to the surface, a little chaotically, and then you've got the feelings of guilt and shame that come along with that. The thing about emotions is that they need to be processed. Emotion is energy in motion. It's energy that goes through your body. It's actually a physical experience. You've noticed that when you get like bad news or you feel really stressed, it's a physical sensation. You might feel it in your gut. You might feel it in your chest. You might feel it in your shoulders. And no, it's not comfortable, right? Like we don't like feeling those negative sensations in our bodies. There's a reason why most people try to escape them, whether it's through food or through drinking or smoking. We all have developed these like escape mechanisms. But the problem is that when we don't process those emotions and we don't release them, what it does is it just gets stored in our body. If you can imagine like pushing a beach ball underwater, you can do it for a little bit, but you're creating a lot of pressure. And then eventually you can't push it down any longer. And then it comes flying up to the surface and it makes a complete mess. So if you are struggling with overeating, that's the second place that I would look is, do you have healthy coping strategies that don't involve food that help you process emotions in a more productive way? Are you using food as a way to numb, distract, regulate yourself temporarily from stress, overwhelm, anxiety, loneliness, boredom? Now, I'm not here to say eating emotionally is a bad thing. There's a time and place for it. But if it is causing you pain, physical, emotional, mental pain to keep repeating this pattern, then it's not serving you. And that means that we need to widen your emotional toolbox. You need to learn how to process those emotions. You need to learn how to have those different strategies that will actually regulate you in a permanent way instead of using artificial regulators like food, because it is just a temporary quote unquote solution before we get those emotions rushing back up to us. So that's the second piece, the second reason that you want to look into. Let's move on to the third, which is on a psychological side. And that's where I get curious about what's going on in your mind while you're eating. Are you telling yourself that you shouldn't be having this food, that you're doing something wrong? Are you feeling guilty about it? Are you telling yourself that, okay, I'm having this cookie, but I'm just going to eat as much as I can now and I'll be better tomorrow? Those are all the voices of your food police, right? That inner critical voice that's always judging and criticizing your food choices, making you feel bad about it. Because of course, if you're having those thoughts while you're eating, you're being driven by fear, anxiety, guilt, shame. Well, from negative emotions and from negative or fearful thoughts, it's really hard to generate positive, calm, and peaceful behaviors around food, right? Because your thoughts create your feelings and your feelings drive your behaviors. So if you're noticing that you're eating and it feels really hard to stop, the third place that you want to look at is, what's going on in my mind? Do I know how to take control of my thoughts? Do I feel really fearful and anxious? And if the answer is yes, like, yes, I do think that my thoughts and my mind are playing into this and they are perpetuating this cycle of overeating, great. Now we have that first step, which is awareness. Now you know where to place your focus and energy. How do I learn how to change my thoughts? How do I learn how to rewire my mind? How do I learn how to take control of those sentences that flow through my brain every single day and that keep me in this cycle? So now at this point, let's just do a little refresh. I've looked into, number one, on a physiological side, is your body getting what it needs? On an emotional side, are you eating to numb, suppress, or distract yourself from difficult, uncomfortable emotions? On a psychological side, are your thoughts causing this Last Supper mentality, all or nothing thinking, the forbidden fruit syndrome? Like the more you tell yourself you can't have it, the more you want it. And then when you do have it, you completely lose control and overeat. And then let's say that you're like, you know what? None of those things apply to me. Then we move on to the last one, which is habitual. And that's pillar number 4 of the fuel method. So we looked at F, we looked at U, which is the unrestricted mind. We looked at E, which is emotional regulation. And then we're looking at L, which is lifestyle consistency. And that's where we look at your habits. So when we're talking about a habitual reason for overeating, we are talking about mindlessness, kind of just doing it because it's there. You know, when you're at like a social function or you're at a family event and you're all sitting around the counter and there's food on the counter and you're just kind of picking at it and you're just doing it, not necessarily because you're emotional, not necessarily because you're telling yourself that you can't or because you're hungry, but just because it's there. You might do the same if you're watching TV and you're just eating and eating and eating, and it's not intentional. It's not mindful. And sometimes you find yourself at the end of your bowl or at the end of the bag, and you just think, where did all of that go? I barely tasted it. I don't really think I enjoyed it. So that's where a big piece of this, the mindless eating, comes in. It becomes very easy to eat mindlessly when you're disconnected, when you're not paying attention to the cues that your body is sending you, when you're not really paying attention to how the food tastes at all. So you're kind of just eating because it's there. So that's the 4th reason. This often tends to happen at night. So asking yourself those 4 different categories. Is it physiological? Do I know what my body needs? And am I giving it those needs consistently? Then we've got the emotional side. Do I know how to process and deal with my emotions in healthy and regulated ways without turning to food to push it down or distract myself? Then on a psychological side, am I creating these stories around guilt and should or shouldn't? Are my choices driven by fear and anxiety? And then lastly, on a habitual side, am I a mindless eater? Do I need to be more intentional? Do I need to be more mindful, present, and connected while I'm eating? So that is a very high level way to diagnose your overeating. Now, of course, you can go deeper into each of these root causes. For example, one pattern that tends to show up a lot, especially with moms, is at the end of the day, when my kids go to bed, it's my only me time. It's the time that I have for myself. And so you might start associating me time and alone time with eating. So that is like a subcategory of the emotional category. So notice how, yes, we can look at those 4 umbrella reasons, but then we can go deeper and deeper. And this is the work I love doing so much, because once you understand why you're overeating, then it's like this light bulb goes off. It's no longer about trying to figure out how to try harder, because realistically, that hasn't worked up until this point, and there's a reason why. If you think about a relationship, for example, if you keep bickering and fighting and there's tension, but it's kind of unspoken, like you don't know where the resentment is coming from. Maybe you don't have super open communication between the two of you. Then to just try harder at the relationship when you don't know what the actual problem is, it's not going to work, right? And you're just going to keep butting heads until you sit down, you talk through whatever is causing this tension, this resentment, these issues that keep coming up. And then once you know what the real problem is, then you can look at what is the solution. So I really hope that this was helpful for you. If you want to learn more about how to diagnose these things, if you want to learn more about these 4 pillars of the fuel method, and you want to get started on truly addressing the root cause of your food obsession, your overeating, your dieting, but you don't know where to start, I highly encourage that you start with my free workshop. I have just linked it in the show notes so that you can go in, you can register, and you can watch it. This is going to be a really great place for you to start if you don't know how. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I appreciate you so much for taking this time to make yourself, make your healing, make your relationship with food a priority. That tells me that you are serious about healing the root cause of your issues with food so that you can finally leave them behind and focus your time, your energy, your mental space on things that truly matter to you, and so that you can focus on creating a life that feels good physically, mentally, and emotionally. So thank you, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.